Hello, and welcome to Mindleapic. Here, in this quiet space, we gather each night to drift gently into rest through stories of the long ago. If this channel brings you a little calm, a soft like would mean so much. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe and press the bell so these peaceful tales can find you whenever you need them, wherever you are listening tonight. Thank you for joining me. Let the day slip away now. Breathe slowly. Let your shoulders soften. Tonight we begin a new journey. Eternal calm of the hunter-gatherer horizon. Restful reflections on ancient lives. The horizon stretches wide and low. A soft line where earth meets sky. Painted in the gentlest shades of rose and pale gold as the first light of day begins to touch the world. It is perhaps 40,000 years ago, or maybe more, in a time when the days followed the slow turning of seasons and the quiet needs of the body, rather than the hurry of clocks. You are part of a small band, no more than 25 or 30 souls, living close to the rhythms of the land. The camp rests in a gentle curve of a valley, sheltered by low limestone cliffs on one side and open grassland rolling away on the other. A shallow river winds nearby, its water clear and steady, murmuring over smooth pebbles that have lain there for countless generations. Overhead, the sky is vast, unmarked by smoke or light except for the faint trail of yesterday's cooking fire that still lingers in thin wisps. The night has been mild, the air carrying only the lightest chill that settles in the hollows and among the grasses. Most of the band sleeps on beds of gathered ferns and soft reeds laid over animal hides, arranged in a loose circle around the central hearth where embers glow, faintly red beneath a thin blanket of ash. The fire has been tended through the hours of darkness by those who woke briefly, perhaps an elder stirring to add a small branch, or a mother shifting to check on a child, keeping the warmth alive without letting flames rise high enough to draw attention from the shadows beyond the camp. Now, as the sky brightens by the smallest degree, the change comes slowly. A single bird calls once, a soft, repetitive note from somewhere in the scrub, then falls silent again, as if waiting for the others to answer. One by one, eyes open. There is no sudden start, no clamor of awakening. A child near the edge of the group sighs and turns onto their side, pulling a hide closer around small shoulders. An adult nearby stretches slowly, arms reaching overhead in a long, languid motion that ends with fingers brushing the cool morning air. The movement is unhurried, as natural as the river's flow. Breaths are steady, visible for a moment in the crispness before dissolving. Someone coughs gently, the sound absorbed by the open space rather than echoing back sharply. Another person sits up gradually, knees drawn in, blanket still draped across the back, and gazes toward the eastern horizon where the light is gathering in quiet layers. Around the hearth, the embers are stirred with a stick, careful not to scatter ash too widely. A few dry twigs are added, placed just so, allowing the tiny flames to catch without haste. The scent of wood smoke rises, light, familiar, comforting, mingling with the earthy smell of dew on grass and the faint mineral trace. From the nearby cliffs, no one speaks loudly. Words, when they come, are murmured low, half to oneself, half to the person closest. A question about the night's dreams, a quiet observation about the color of the sky, a soft laugh shared over something small and private. The voices blend with the other sounds, the rustle of hides being folded, the soft scrape of a flint against stone as someone checks a tool left out overnight, the distant ripple of water moving over rocks. Children begin to move more freely now, crawling from their sleeping places to sit near parents or grandparents, pressing close for warmth that lingers from the night. Small hands reach for bits of leftover food from yesterday. Perhaps a handful of roasted roots wrapped in leaves, or a few hazelnuts cracked open the evening before. The food is passed without ceremony, shared in small portions so that everyone has something to ease the gentle emptiness of morning. There is no counting, no measuring. The act of giving is as natural as breathing. A mother breaks a piece of dried meat with her teeth and offers half to the child beside her, who accepts it with sleepy fingers. The chewing is slow, deliberate, accompanied by the soft crackle of the growing fire. Beyond the camp, the landscape wakes in its own time. Grass stems bend under the weight of dew, releasing tiny droplets that catch the light and sparkle for a moment before vanishing. A herd of grazing animals moves slowly along the far ridge, their shapes dark against the brightening sky, hooves making almost no sound on the soft earth. Birds begin to call more steadily now, not in frantic chorus, but in measured phrases, one answering another across the valley. The wind moves through the taller grasses with a whispering hush, carrying the scent of distant pine and sun-warmed stone. In this moment, there is no urgency. The day will unfold as it always does, guided by light and hunger, by the needs of the body and the quiet bonds between people. Tasks will come, gathering what the land offers, tending to tools, watching over the young, but they arrive without pressure, spaced by long intervals of simply being. You feel the warmth of the fire on your face now, the softness of the hide beneath you, the steady rise and fall of breath in the person lying nearby. Everything is calm, everything is safe. The horizon remains steady, eternal, inviting you to rest your thoughts upon it as the light grows a little brighter, a little softer, carrying you deeper into peace. The morning continues to open slowly, one gentle breath at a time. The fire has settled now into a gentle, steady glow, small flames licking quietly at the new wood without hurry or haste. The smoke rises in thin, pale columns that drift sideways on the lightest of breezes, carrying the warm, resinous scent across the camp and out toward the open valley. It is still early, the sun not yet clear of the horizon, so the light remains soft and diffused, touching everything with the same even tenderness. No sharp edges, no glaring brightness to startle the eyes. The dew still clings to the blades of grass, each drop holding a tiny reflection of the sky, and when a foot brushes past, the moisture gathers and falls in silent, scattered beads. Someone has risen fully now and walks slowly toward the riverbank, bare feet pressing into the cool, damp earth. The path is familiar, worn smooth by countless mornings just like this one. A gentle track that curves between low clumps of wild thyme and patches of clover. With each step, the air grows a fraction fresher, laced with the clean mineral smell of moving water and the faint green breath of reeds that line the shallows. At the edge of the river, the person crouches, cupping hands to scoop the clear current, letting it spill over fingers and wrists before bringing it to the face in slow, deliberate motions. The water is cold enough to make the breath catch for a moment, then warm again as it touches skin already waking to the day. Droplets catch in eyelashes, slide down cheeks, and drip onto the front of a soft hide tunic, darkening the leather in small, spreading circles that will dry slowly in the coming hours. Back at the hearth, others are stirring more fully. A woman unfolds herself from her sleeping place, stretching first one leg, then the other, rolling her shoulders in wide, lazy circles until the last stiffness of night fades away. She reaches for a small woven basket kept near the fire, tightly plaited from thin willow strips, its surface smooth from long use, and lifts the lid of layered bark to check the contents inside. There are a few remaining dried berries from the previous season, small and dark, their sweetness concentrated by time, a handful of cracked acorns waiting to be pounded into meal, and several lengths of sinew carefully coiled and tied. She selects 2 of the berries and places one between her lips, letting the faint tartness rest on her tongue before chewing slowly, savoring the quiet burst of flavor that feels almost like a memory of summer carried forward into this new day. Nearby, an older man sits cross-legged on a flat stone that has been pulled close to the fire years ago for just this purpose. His hands move with the calm certainty of long practice as he takes up a piece of flint and a small hammerstone. The flint is a soft gray, veined with lighter streaks, already shaped roughly into a blade, but needing only the finest retouch along one edge. He holds it steady against his thigh, angled just so, and strikes with measured taps. Tap, pause, tap, pause, each blow precise, controlled, sending tiny flakes spinning away into the grass like pale moths. The sound is soft, almost rhythmic, blending with the low murmur of the river and the occasional soft call of a bird passing overhead. When the edge is sharp enough to satisfy him, he runs a thumb along it carefully, testing without cutting, then sets the tool aside on a piece of soft leather to wait for its next use. Children have gathered now near the warmth, sitting in a loose half-circle with knees drawn up, blankets still draped around shoulders like small capes. One of them holds a smooth river pebble, turning it over and over between small fingers, tracing the gentle curve where water has worn it perfect. Another child leans against an adult's side, head resting on a familiar shoulder, eyes half closed as the firelight dances across their face in slow, warm patterns. No one urges them to rise quickly or begin tasks. The morning is allowed to unfold at its own pace, and the young are given time to wake fully into the world around them. A grandmother reaches out and smooths a tangle of hair with gentle fingers, the motion repeated several times until the strands lie quiet and smooth again. From somewhere, farther along the valley, a soft lowing carries on the air, perhaps aurochs, grazing in the distance, their voices deep and unhurried, rising and falling without urgency. The sound drifts across the open ground, mingling with the rustle of leaves in a nearby stand of birch, their white trunks catching the first true rays of sunlight and glowing, faintly gold against the darker greens behind them. A few leaves drift down, turning lazily in the still air before settling onto the earth without a sound. The day's first real task begins almost without announcement. 2 adults walk together toward a cluster of hazel bushes that grow thickly along the lower slope of the valley, their branches heavy with the last of the season's nuts still enclosed in soft green husks. They carry shallow baskets woven from split reeds, light enough to swing easily from one arm. As they move, they speak quietly. Words about the ripeness of the crop, the way the wind has shifted overnight, the promise of clear weather for the next few days. Each sentence short, calm, trailing off into comfortable silence. When they reach the bushes, they settle onto the ground, knees folded beneath them, and begin to gather, fingers working methodically to twist the nuts free without bruising the shells. The husks make a faint, dry rustling as they are peeled back, and the nuts themselves are smooth and cool in the palm, their color a warm chestnut brown that seems to hold the memory of sunlight inside. Back at camp, the fire has grown just enough to hold a steady heat. A flat stone rests at the edge of the coals, warming slowly and someone places a few of yesterday's roots upon it. Long, pale tubers dug from the sandy soil near the river, their skins still dusted with earth. They turn occasionally with a stick, the surfaces browning gradually, releasing a faint, sweet, earthy aroma that drifts through the camp and draws the others nearer without words. The waiting is patient. No one hurries the process, and the quiet interval is filled only with the soft sounds of breathing, the crackle of the fire, and the distant, steady voice of the water moving over stones. Everything continues to happen slowly, layer by layer, moment by moment. The light strengthens by the smallest degrees, warming the air around your face, your hands, the ground beneath you. Your own breath matches the rhythm of the day. Slow in, slow out, carrying you deeper into the gentle, unchanging peace of this ancient morning. There is nothing to rush toward. There is only this quiet unfolding, steady and safe, inviting you to rest here a little longer. The sun has now lifted itself just above the distant line of hills, a pale disk veiled by the thinnest haze so that its light feels diffused and gentle, spreading across the valley floor without any harshness. Shadows are long but soft, stretching eastward from every stone, every clump of grass, every seated figure in the camp. The air has warmed by only a few degrees, enough to lift the last traces of morning chill from exposed skin, yet cool enough that the fire's warmth still draws people closer in slow, instinctive drifts. The two gatherers have returned from the hazel bushes, their baskets half filled with nuts still wrapped in their green husks. They settle near the hearth on a patch of ground smoothed flat by years of use, knees folded comfortably beneath them. One begins to peel the husks away with careful twists of the fingers, the dry outer layers separating with a faint, satisfying crackle that repeats in quiet rhythm. The nuts inside emerge smooth and perfect, their surfaces a rich, warm brown that catches the light in subtle gleams. She places each one in a shallow depression, worn into the center of a flat piece of wood that serves as a communal tray. Generations of hands have polished its surface until it shines faintly with use. The second person takes a small, rounded stone, its weight familiar in the palm, and begins to crack the shells one by one. The strikes are light, deliberate. Tap, pause, tap, never forceful enough to shatter the kernel inside, only enough to split the hard casing so it can be pried open with fingernails. The kernels fall out whole or in neat halves, pale and slightly oily, releasing a faint, sweet, woody scent that mingles with the smoke and the river air. A child watches the process with wide, calm eyes, then reaches out a small hand to receive one of the fresh pieces. It is placed directly onto an open palm, and the child brings it slowly to the mouth, chewing with the same unhurried care as the adults. The texture is crisp at first, then softens into a gentle richness that lingers on the tongue. No one speaks of portions or shares. The food simply moves from hand to hand in small, natural exchanges, each person taking only what feels right in the moment. Nearby, another figure has moved to the river's edge with a length of supple willow branch and a bundle of thin, flexible roots collected the day before. She sits on a low, flat boulder worn smooth by the current, legs crossed, bare feet resting in the cool shallows where tiny fish dart in silver flashes. Her fingers work steadily, weaving the roots around the willow frame to form the beginning of a new carrying basket. Each strand is soaked briefly in the water to make it pliant, then wrapped and tucked with quiet precision. The motion is repetitive, soothing. Dip, wrap, tuck, dip, wrap, tuck, creating a soft, steady cadence that matches the slow pulse of the river itself. She hums faintly under her breath, not a song with words, but a low, wordless tone that rises and falls like breath, blending so completely with the surrounding sounds that it seems almost part of the landscape. At the camp's center, the flat stone by the fire has grown steadily warmer. The roots placed there earlier are now soft and fragrant, their skins blistered and golden in places. Someone lifts them one by one with a pair of forked sticks, careful not to let them break apart, and sets them onto broad leaves gathered fresh that morning. Large, waxy leaves from a plant that grows thick along the riverbank. The leaves are arranged in a rough circle on the ground near the hearth so that everyone can reach without stretching far. The roots are divided gently, broken into pieces by hand rather than cut, their steaming interiors pale and mealy, carrying the clean, earthy sweetness of the soil they grew in. People eat slowly, taking small bites, letting the warmth spread through the chest and the quiet fullness settle in the stomach without rush. Between bites, there are long pauses filled only with the sounds of chewing, the soft crack of nutshells farther along the circle, the distant lowing of grazing animals moving farther up the valley. An elder has taken a place slightly apart, seated on a rise of earth that gives a clear view across the open grassland. In his lap rests a length of antler shed the previous season, its surface pitted and smooth in turns. He holds a small flake of flint between thumb and forefinger and draws it along the antler in slow, repeated strokes, smoothing an area that will later serve as a handle for a tool yet to be finished. The motion is meditative. Scrape, lift, scrape, lift. Each pass, removing only the finest dust of bone that drifts away on the breeze like pale smoke. His eyes remain mostly on the horizon, watching the slow drift of clouds across the wide sky, their shapes changing by imperceptible degrees from one soft form to another. Occasionally, he glances down to check his progress, then returns to the distant view, content to let the work unfold over hours rather than minutes. The light has deepened now into a warmer gold, touching the tops of the limestone cliffs and making the pale stone glow with quiet warmth. Birds move in small groups across the valley, their wings catching the sun in brief flashes before they settle again into the grasses. A light wind stirs, carrying the scent of sun-heated herbs and distant water, brushing across faces and bare arms with the gentlest touch. No one hurries to rise or to begin anything new. The morning has stretched comfortably into midday without any sense of time passing quickly. Bodies rest where they are, some seated, some reclining, against the soft slope of the ground. Content simply to be present in the steady, unchanging rhythm of the day. Your own breathing has slowed to match the pace around you. In, hold, out, slow. The warmth of the sun rests lightly on your eyelids. The sounds of quiet work and soft voices wrap around you like a familiar blanket. There is no need to move, no need to speak. The valley holds you safely. The horizon remains steady, and the gentle unfolding of this ancient day carries you deeper, softer toward rest. The midday light now bathes the valley in a calm, even warmth. The sun high enough that shadows have shortened to soft pools beneath each person and each low bush. The air carries a gentle stillness, broken only by the steady, almost inaudible hum of insects moving among the wildflowers, and the occasional slow ripple where the river turns against a submerged stone. Everything feels held in a quiet balance. No rush of wind, no sudden calls from the birds, only the patient progression of light across grass and stone. The nuts have been fully shelled and sorted now, the kernels gathered into a small pile on the polished wooden tray. Someone has brought a handful of dried herbs, small, fragrant leaves picked weeks earlier, and tied in loose bundles with thin strips of bark. These are crumbled gently between the palms, the fine green dust falling over the nuts in a light, even layer. The scent rises immediately, mild, earthy, with the faintest trace of something sweet and resinous, spreading outward in slow waves that reach everyone seated nearby. A few of the nuts are set aside on a flat leaf to be carried later, perhaps to an elder who prefers to eat slowly while watching the horizon, while the rest are passed hand to hand in the circle. Each person takes only 2 or 3 at a time, rolling them between fingers before placing them in the mouth, chewing with long, measured pauses so the flavor can unfold fully on the tongue. At the river bank, the basket weaver has continued without pause. The willow frame has grown taller by several careful rows, its shape beginning to curve outward, in the gentle swell that will become the main body. She dips another length of root into the water, lets it soften for a moment, then threads it through the existing lattice with the same unhurried rhythm. Over, under, pull gently, over, under, pull gently. The water drips from her fingers in slow, separate drops that fall back into the current with tiny, almost silent plinks. Tiny fish gather curiously near her submerged feet, their silver bodies flashing as they turn in lazy circles, drawn perhaps by the faint disturbance or simply by the presence of stillness. She watches them for a long moment without moving, then resumes her weaving as though the interruption had been part of the pattern itself. Further along the bank, 2 others have waded into the shallows, wearing only the lightest of hide, wraps tied at the waist. The water reaches no higher than mid-thigh, cool but no longer cold, its surface rippling softly around their legs with each slow step. They bend at the waist, hands trailing through the current, feeling for the smooth, heavy shapes of river mussels half buried in the sandy bottom, fingers close around one, then another, lifting them carefully so as not to stir up clouds of silt. The shells are dark and ridged on the outside, cool and slightly slippery, closing tightly when touched. They are placed into a shallow woven carrier that floats beside them, tethered to a wrist by a short cord of twisted plant fiber. The work moves at the pace of the river itself. Reach, feel, lift, place, reach, feel, lift, place. Each motion flowing into the next without break or hurry. Occasionally, one of them straightens to let the water run down arms and chest, droplets catching the light before they fall back into the stream. Back at the hearth, the flat stone has cooled just enough to be useful again. A few of the larger hazelnut shells, saved from earlier, are arranged in a rough ring around the edge of the coals. Into each shell, someone has placed a small lump of resin gathered from a nearby pine weeks before, hard, amber-colored, fragrant when warmed. As the resin softens, it begins to release its scent in slow, lazy curls of smoke that rise and drift across the camp, mingling with the wood smoke and the herb dust until the air feels thick with gentle, layered sweetness. The fragrance settles over everything like a soft veil, calming the breath, slowing the heartbeat without anyone needing to notice it happening. An older child has wandered a short distance from the main group, following a faint trail that leads toward a cluster of low-growing berry bushes still holding a few late fruits. The child moves barefoot, stepping lightly over dry twigs and patches of warm earth, pausing every few paces to look around, not out of caution, but simply to take in the slow changes of light on leaf and stone. At the bushes the child crouches, reaching among the branches with small, careful hands to find the darkest berries hidden beneath the leaves. Each one is plucked singly, examined for a moment in the palm, its deep purple, skin dusted with the faintest bloom, then placed into a folded leaf held in the other hand. The picking continues for a long while, unhurried, accompanied only by the soft rustle of leaves and the child's own quiet breathing. The valley remains perfectly peaceful. The grazing herd on the far ridge has moved only a little farther along, their dark shapes drifting like slow clouds against the pale grass. A single hawk circles high overhead, wings held steady, riding the warm air without a single beat, its shadow passing across the ground in a long, gentle glide that takes many slow minutes to cross the open space. The sound of the river has become so familiar that it feels almost like silence itself, a steady undertone that supports every other quiet noise. The crackle of the small fire, the faint scrape of flint on antler, the soft dip and pull of roots in water. You feel the warmth of the sun on your skin now, steady and even, never too strong. Your limbs have grown heavy in the best possible way, resting easily against the earth or the soft hides beneath you. Each breath comes slower than the last. Deep, slow, deep, slow, carrying the scents of resin, herbs, river water, and sun-warmed grass deep into your lungs. There is no place else to be, no moment to hurry toward. The day holds you gently, unchanging, safe, inviting your thoughts to drift farther and farther outward until they dissolve quietly into the wide, calm horizon. The afternoon has settled into its deepest calm, the sun now tracing a slow, wide arc across the sky without seeming to hurry at all. Its light has softened further, turning from the earlier gold to a steady, warm amber that bathes every surface in the same quiet glow. The valley feels held in perfect suspension, grass blades barely moving, the river's surface smooth except for the gentlest undulations where it flows over hidden pebbles far below. Shadows have lengthened again, but only by the smallest measure, stretching lazily eastward like relaxed limbs across the open ground. The mussels gathered earlier have been brought back to the hearth in their woven carrier, shells still wet and glistening faintly in the light. They are arranged in a single layer on another broad, fresh leaf spread beside the fire. Someone has placed a few small, flat stones heated earlier in the coals onto the shells, carefully, using forked branches so the heat transfers without burning fingers. The stones hiss softly as they touch the damp shells, releasing tiny wisps of steam that carry the clean, briny scent of the river mixed with the faint mineral warmth of the stone. After a few slow minutes, the shells begin to open of their own accord, revealing the soft, pale flesh inside. Each mussel is lifted gently with the tip of a sharpened stick. The meat slipped free and placed onto a shared leaf platter. The texture is tender, slightly chewy, tasting of the clear water and the sun-warmed sand where it lived. People eat them one at a time, letting each morsel rest on the tongue before chewing slowly, the flavor unfolding in quiet layers that linger long after swallowing. The basket weaver by the river has finished the main body of her work and now turns to the rim. She selects longer, more flexible willow shoots, soaking them again in the current until they bend without resistance. Her fingers coil them around the top edge, overlapping each pass with precise care. Twist, tuck, overlap, twist, tuck, overlap, creating a sturdy, even border that will hold its shape for seasons to come. The completed basket rests beside her on the boulder, its surface still damp, the weave tight and regular, catching small beads of water that sparkle briefly before they dry in the warm air. She runs her palm along the curve once, twice, feeling the smoothness of her own work, then sets it aside to cure slowly in the shade of an overhanging branch. A small group has gathered near the central hearth, not in any formal circle but in the loose, comfortable way that happens, naturally when bodies seek the same patch of warmth and company. One person holds a length of sinew stretched between both hands, working it back and forth across a smooth stone to soften and separate the fibers. The motion is long and even. Pull, release, pull, release. Each pass making the sinew finer, more pliable, ready to be twisted later into strong cord. Beside them another uses a small awl of sharpened bone to pierce holes along the edge of a hide that has been scraped clean the day before. The hide is soft now, almost supple, its surface a pale tan marked only by the faint natural grain. The awl moves steadily. Press, turn, withdraw, leaving neat, even holes spaced the width of a finger apart. The two tasks continue side by side in companionable quiet, the soft scrape of sinew against stone, blending with the gentle pop of the awl through leather. Both sounds so familiar, they become part of the valley's own breathing. Farther out, the child who gathered berries earlier has returned and now sits with legs crossed near an elder. The folded leaf of berries rests between them, small dark fruits still warm from the sun. The elder takes one slowly, rolls it between thumb and forefinger to feel its firmness, then places it whole into the mouth. The child mirrors the motion exactly. Roll, pause, place, chewing with the same deliberate slowness. Between each berry there is a long silence, filled only by the distant murmur of the river and the faint rustle of grass as a light breeze passes over. No stories are told, no lessons given. The sharing is simply present, wordless, steady, a small thread of connection woven into the larger calm of the afternoon. High above, the hawk has drifted lower now, circling in wider, lazier loops that carry it across half the valley, before it rises again on a thermal too, gentle to notice from the ground. Its shadow glides over the camp once, a brief darkening that passes in seconds, then returns to the open grassland where it settles without sound onto a low rise. The bird folds its wings and remains still, watching the slow movement below, with the same unhurried patience that marks every creature here. The resin in the hazelnut shells has melted completely now, pooling into small amber pools that release their fragrance in steady, rhythmic pulses with each shift of the coals. The scent wraps around the seated figures, sinking into clothing, into hair, into skin, until it feels as though the air itself has become softer, heavier with calm. Breaths deepen without effort, slow, in through the nose, slow, out through slightly parted lips, each one carrying more of the resin's warmth, more of the valley's quiet. Your own body has grown even heavier against the earth, every muscle loosening by the smallest degree with each passing minute. The sun rests on your face like the lightest touch, never hot, only comforting. The sounds around you have blended into one continuous, low hum, the river, the fire, the soft movements of hands, the occasional sigh of someone shifting position, all of it steady, predictable, safe. There is nothing to reach for, nothing to fear. The afternoon stretches on, endless in its gentleness, holding you securely as your thoughts drift farther outward, dissolving slowly into the wide amber light and the unchanging horizon beyond. Deeper now, slower now, safer now. The light has begun its slow descent now, the sun sliding gradually toward the western rim of hills without any sense of haste. Its rays lengthen once more, turning the valley into a wide canvas of soft amber and pale rose, every blade of grass catching a thin golden edge that trembles faintly when the breeze stirs. The warmth lingers on the skin like the memory of a gentle hand, never fading abruptly, only easing by the smallest degrees as the afternoon drifts deeper into evening. Shadows stretch long and quiet across the ground, pooling beneath the limestone cliffs and beneath the seated figures who have not moved far from their places near the hearth. The mussels have all been eaten now, their empty shells gathered into a small heap beside the fire, where they will later be crushed and scattered into the soil to return their calcium to the earth. The leaf platters are folded carefully and set aside, their surfaces still faintly damp from the river water and the steam. Someone has added a few more dry branches to the coals, thin, brittle pieces gathered earlier from the edge of the birch stand, placing them with deliberate slowness so the flames rise only enough to keep a steady, low heat. The new wood catches quietly, crackling and soft, spaced bursts that send tiny sparks upward before they vanish into the cooling air. The smoke drifts higher now, thinner and more translucent, carrying the mingled scents of pine resin, roasted roots, and the faint, briny trace left by the mussels. The person working the sinew has finished softening the fibers and now twists them between steady palms into a single, strong cord. The motion is long and rhythmic roll, twist, roll, twist, each pass tightening the strands until they form a smooth, even line that gleams faintly with natural oils. When the length feels sufficient, it is coiled loosely around 2 fingers, then tied at both ends with a simple overhand knot, the ends left long enough to fray slightly for later use in binding or sewing. The finished cord is laid across a clean stretch of hide to rest, its pale color almost matching the leather beneath it, waiting patiently for whatever task tomorrow may bring. Beside the hearth, an elder has taken up a different piece of work, a small nodule of ochre, soft and earthy red, collected long ago from a seam in the cliffs. He rubs it slowly against a flat grinding stone, the surface already pitted from years of the same gentle pressure. The ochre crumbles into fine powder with each pass, releasing a faint, clean mineral scent that settles close to the ground. He gathers the powder into a shallow depression in a piece of bark, adding only a few drops of water from a cupped palm to form a thick paste. The paste is worked with one finger in slow circles. Stir, pause, stir, pause, until it reaches the smooth consistency needed for later marking on hide or stone or skin. There is no hurry in the preparation. The color deepens gradually under his touch, growing richer without ever becoming bright or demanding attention. Children have drifted toward the river again, not to work, but simply to be near the water as the day softens. They sit along the bank with bare legs extended toward the current, toes just brushing the surface so small ripples spread outward in widening circles. One child picks up a handful of fine river sand and lets it trickle slowly through fingers, watching the pale grains catch the late light before they fall back into the shallows. Another finds a perfect flat pebble and skips it across the water. Once, twice, 3 gentle bounces, each touch sending out fresh ripples that meet and overlap in quiet patterns before smoothing away. The sounds are small and spaced. The soft plink of stone on water, the faint splash of toes dipping in and out, the low murmur of the river itself flowing steadily onward. A light breeze moves through the valley now, cooler than before, carrying the scent of sun-warmed stone from the cliffs and the distant green breath of pine trees. Higher up the slopes, it brushes across faces and arms, lifting strands of hair and the edges of hides without ever becoming strong enough to chill. Someone pulls a soft fur closer around shoulders, not out of cold, but simply for the added comfort of its familiar weight. The fire responds to the breeze with a brief lift of flame, then settles again into its steady glow, embers pulsing faintly like the slow beat of a resting heart. Far across the grassland, the grazing herd has turned and begun drifting back toward the shelter of trees as the light begins to fade. Their movements are unhurried, hooves placing softly on the earth, dark shapes blending gradually into the lengthening shadows. A single bird calls once from the birch stand. A low, repeating note held for a long moment, then falls silent, as though content to let the quiet take over completely. The ochre paste has been set aside now, covered with a thin piece of bark to keep it moist until morning. The elder wipes his hands on a scrap of hide, then leans back against the gentle slope of earth behind him, eyes half closed, face turned toward the western sky where the sun has become a soft, glowing disk resting just above the horizon. Others follow the same motion in their own time, reclining slowly, knees bent, arms resting across chests or along sides, bodies settling into the ground as though the earth itself were rising gently to meet them. Your own eyelids have grown heavier with the deepening light. The warmth that remains clings softly to your skin, your breath matching the slow rise and fall of the fire's glow. In, hold, out, slower, deeper. Every sound around you has become part of one continuous, gentle lullaby, the river's murmur, the faint crackle of embers, the whisper of breeze through grass, all steady, all safe. The valley cradles you now, its peace unchanging, its horizon still and wide. Nothing needs to be done. Nothing needs to change. Let the evening carry you deeper, softer, quieter, into rest. The sun has touched the western horizon now, resting there like a soft ember that gives its last gentle warmth without any flicker of urgency. The sky above has deepened into layers of rose and lavender, colors so pale and blended that they seem to breathe rather than appear. The valley lies wrapped in this quiet twilight, every outline softened, every distance blurred into peace. The air has cooled just enough that the lingering heat of the day clings close to the ground, rising in faint, slow waves from sun-warmed stone and earth. The fire has been tended once more, fresh branches laid across the coals, with careful hands so that flames rise low and steady, casting a small, golden circle of light around the seated figures. The glow reaches only a short distance, enough to touch faces and hands, enough to make eyes reflect tiny points of warmth, then fades gently into the gathering dusk. Smoke rises straight upward in the still air, thin and pale, carrying the last traces of resin and wood into the cooling sky. Someone has placed a few larger stones near the edge of the hearth. They absorb the heat slowly, holding it through the coming hours to warm feet and palms when the night settles fully. The group has drawn closer together now, not out of need for protection, but simply because the circle of firelight feels like the natural center of the evening. Bodies rest in easy positions, some sitting with legs extended toward the warmth, some reclining on one elbow, others leaning back against the gentle rise of earth or against the soft bulk of a folded hide. A child curls near an adult's side, head resting on a familiar thigh, small fingers loosely holding the edge of a blanket that has been pulled across both of them. The breathing around the fire is slow and even, rising and falling in no particular pattern, yet somehow in harmony, like the quiet tide of the river far below. One person reaches for a small pouch of dried leaves, kept close to the hearth. Broad, dark leaves gathered in late summer and cured, until they crumble softly between the fingers. A few are placed onto the coals where they smolder rather than burn, releasing a mild, herbal smoke that drifts low across the circle. The scent is clean and grounding, faintly mint-like, faintly earthy, settling over eyelids and temples, easing any last traces of wakefulness without anyone needing to name it. The leaves curl and darken, sending up tiny threads of blue-gray, smoke that twists lazily before dissolving into the twilight. An elder begins a soft, wordless humming. Low, sustained notes that rise only slightly above the level of breath. The sound carries no melody that demands attention. It simply flows, repeating in gentle cycles, blending so completely with the crackle of the fire and the distant murmur of water that it feels like another natural voice of the valley. One by one others join, not all at once, not in unison, but in their own time, adding a deeper tone here, a softer breath there, until the humming becomes a quiet, living undercurrent that wraps around every listener like the warmth of the fire itself. Beyond the circle of light, the night begins to claim the open grassland. The grazing herd has long since moved into the shelter of distant trees, their shapes no longer visible, only the faint, occasional low sound drifting back on the still air. Stars appear one by one overhead, first the brightest, then the quieter ones, each point steady and unblinking in the clear dark. No clouds interrupt the wide expanse. The sky holds only depth and calm, inviting the gaze to rest there without effort. A single bat flits silently above the camp, wings whispering through the air in soft, irregular loops before vanishing toward the river. Someone shifts to add another small branch to the fire, the wood catching with a gentle pop that sends a brief shower of sparks upward. Tiny, brief stars that fade before they can fall far. The new flame brightens faces for a moment, illuminating calm eyes, relaxed mouths, the faint lines of lives lived close to the earth. Then the light settles again, lower, steadier, returning the circle to its soft amber glow. The humming continues, slower now, each note held a fraction longer than the last. Breaths deepen in response. Slow. In, hold. Slow. Out. Carrying the herbal smoke deep into lungs, letting it linger before release. Muscles that have carried the body through the day soften completely. Shoulders dropping, jaws loosening, fingers uncurling from loose fists. The ground beneath feels warmer, more yielding, rising gently to support every point of contact. Your own eyelids have grown impossibly heavy, fluttering once or twice before resting closed. The warmth of the fire brushes your face in slow, even waves. The humming wraps around your thoughts, dissolving them gently, one by one. The stars above hold their quiet watch, unchanging, eternal. The valley breathes with you, slow, deep, safe. Nothing stirs, nothing calls. Let the night carry you deeper now, softer now, quieter now, into the endless, gentle dark. Night has settled fully over the valley now. The sky a deep, velvety black scattered with stars that shine steadily, without twinkling in the clear, still air. The last trace of sunset has faded from the western horizon, leaving only a faint, cool blue along the edge of the world. The fire remains the gentle heart of the camp, its flames low and even, fed just enough to keep a soft, constant glow that reaches no farther than the circle of resting bodies. Embers pulse beneath the ash in slow, rhythmic breaths, sending up occasional, tiny sparks that rise a short distance before drifting away into darkness. The warmth touches faces and hands in quiet waves, never hot, only comforting, like the memory of sunlight held close through the hours of night. The herbal smoke has thinned to almost nothing, leaving behind only the clean, grounding scent that lingers faintly on clothing and skin. The humming that filled the earlier twilight has softened further still. Now just one or two voices sustaining the lowest, longest notes, so quiet they seem to come from inside the chest rather than from the mouth. The sound fades in and out like distant breathing, sometimes present, sometimes absent, blending completely with the soft crackle of the fire and the ever-present murmur of the river far below. No one tries to keep it going. It simply continues as long as breath supports it, then drifts away naturally into silence. Bodies have shifted into their most restful positions. Some lie fully reclined now, backs against the gentle slope of earth, arms resting loosely at sides or folded across chests, hides pulled up to shoulders. Others remain seated but leaning far back, heads supported by the curve of a companion's thigh or by a rolled pelt placed. Just so. A child sleeps already, small chest rising and falling in perfect rhythm, one hand open and relaxed near the warmth of the hearth. An adult nearby reaches out slowly to draw a corner of blanket higher over the small form, the motion so gentle it disturbs nothing, not even the air. The gesture is repeated in small ways around the circle. A hand smoothing hair, another tucking a hide more securely, each touch light, wordless, instinctive. Beyond the firelight, the night holds the valley in complete quiet. The limestone cliffs stand dark and solid, their pale faces now invisible except where the faintest starlight outlines their edges. The grassland stretches away into shadow. Grass blades still, no movement to catch even the weakest gleam. An owl calls once from somewhere high among the birches. A single, soft note held for a long moment, then answered faintly from farther down the valley, before both fall silent again. The sound does not startle. It simply arrives, lingers, and departs, leaving the stillness deeper than before. Someone stirs just enough to place one more small branch across the coals. The wood catches without flare, adding a brief, warm lift to the light that touches closed eyelids and relaxed mouths before settling back into its steady glow. The new heat radiates outward in slow waves, warming feet that have been extended toward the fire, loosening any final trace of tension in legs and ankles. The stones placed earlier near the hearth now hold their stored warmth perfectly, smooth and comforting, beneath bare soles or against the small of the back when someone shifts closer. The stars seem closer in this deep quiet, each point of light steady and calm, arranged in patterns that have watched over countless nights just like this one. No wind moves through the valley. The air remains perfectly still, carrying only the faint mineral scent of the cliffs, the clean breath of the river, and the soft, woody trace of burning embers. Every sound has become smaller, more distant, the river's murmur now a whisper, the fire's crackle barely audible, the breathing of those around you slow and even, almost inaudible. Your own body has surrendered completely to the earth beneath. The ground feels warmer now, softer, rising gently to cradle every curve and hollow. Your arms rest heavy, fingers loose, palms open toward the sky. Each breath comes deeper, slower. In, long pause. Out, longer pause. The rhythm matches the pulse of the embers, the faint rise and fall of the one humming voice that remains, the distant, steady flow of water over stones. Thoughts have grown thin and scattered, drifting like the last wisps of smoke, dissolving before they can form fully. Nothing needs attention. Nothing requires effort. The night holds you safely in its wide, dark arms. The fire watches over you with its quiet glow. The stars keep their unchanging vigil above. Let every breath carry you a little deeper, a little softer, a little quieter, into the endless, peaceful dark of this ancient night. The fire has become even quieter now, its flames reduced to a soft, steady ring of embers that glow deep orange beneath a thin veil of ash. Occasional tiny pops break the silence as trapped moisture escapes from the wood, but the sound is so small and distant it barely registers. The light reaches only the faces closest to the hearth, touching closed eyelids and relaxed cheeks with the gentlest warmth, then fading into cool darkness a few paces beyond. The circle of people has grown still. Breaths deep and measured. Bodies sunk fully into the earth or against one another in soft, trusting weight. No one moves to add more fuel. The embers are enough to carry the night through, holding just sufficient heat to keep the chill from settling too close. The herbal scent has long since dissipated, leaving the air pure and cool, scented only by the faint mineral breath of the limestone cliffs and the clean, watery trace that rises from the river in the valley below. The stars overhead burn with calm, unwavering light, their patterns fixed and familiar, the same constellations that have wheeled above this place for thousands upon thousands of nights. The Milky Way stretches across the zenith in a faint, silvery river of its own, so soft it seems almost to breathe, its glow too gentle to cast shadows, yet bright enough to outline the shapes of sleeping forms in pale silhouette. An elder lies on his back a little apart from the main group, arms folded loosely across his chest, eyes open to the sky. His breathing is slow, almost imperceptible, each inhale drawing in the cool night air, each exhale releasing it without sound. He watches the stars without hurry, letting his gaze drift from one point of light to the next, tracing invisible lines between them as though following paths walked long ago in memory. No thoughts press forward. The mind rests as quietly as the body, simply present beneath the vast, unchanging dome. A child near the center stirs once in sleep. Small limbs, shifting beneath the hide blanket, a faint sigh escaping parted lips, then settles again more deeply, cheek pressed against the warm earth. An adult nearby reaches out in the darkness, palm resting lightly on the small shoulder for a moment, the touch steady and wordless, then withdrawing slowly so the hand comes to rest open on the ground once more. The gesture requires no effort, no thought. It happens as naturally as breath follows breath. Far down the valley, the river continues its endless, soft conversation with the stones. Murmur, pause, murmur, pause. A sound so constant it has become silence itself. No night creatures call. The owls have returned to their perches among the birches, folded wings motionless, eyes half closed in their own quiet rest. The grassland lies dark and still, every blade of grass holding its place, every small creature curled in burrow or nest, wrapped in the same deep calm that covers the camp. The embers pulse faintly, their glow rising and falling in the slowest possible rhythm. Brighten, dim, brighten, dim, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. The warmth they give is perfect now, enough to keep skin from cooling too quickly, yet never enough to disturb sleep. It seeps into bones, into muscles, loosening every last thread of tension until the body feels weightless. Against the ground, held yet free, supported yet floating, your own breath has found its deepest, slowest cadence. In, long, slow hold. Out, longer still. Each exhale carries away the final fragments of the day, leaving only quiet space behind. The ground beneath you feels warmer, softer, more welcoming with every passing minute, rising gently to meet the curve of your back, the weight of your head, the open palms turned toward the stars. The darkness wraps around you like the softest hide, cool at the edges, yet comforting at the center. No images form in the mind. No plans, no memories demand attention. There is only this moment, endless, gentle, safe. The night deepens further, layer by layer, without hurry. The embers glow on. The stars hold their silent watch. The valley breathes with you, slow, deep, unchanging. Let every breath sink you a little lower, a little quieter, a little more completely, into the vast, peaceful stillness of this ancient night. The embers have settled into their deepest, most tranquil state. Small, rounded mounds of soft orange that glow steadily without any flicker or rise. A thin layer of pale ash covers them now, insulating the heat so it radiates outward in the gentlest possible waves, warm enough to touch the skin without waking it. The circle of light has shrunk to the narrowest ring, touching only the faces and hands nearest the hearth, leaving the outer edges of the camp wrapped in cool, comforting darkness. No one tends the fire anymore. It needs nothing, asks for nothing, simply exists as a quiet companion through the long hours ahead. Breaths around the hearth have found their slowest, most even rhythm. Each inhale draws in the cool night air. Clean, faintly scented with distant pine and river. Stone, each exhale releases it without sound, without effort. The pattern repeats in soft, overlapping cycles. One person's breath slightly ahead, another lagging gently behind, yet all of them moving together like slow ripples spreading across still water. A hide blanket has slipped slightly from one shoulder. No hand reaches to adjust it. The body simply shifts by the smallest degree, drawing the warmth closer without conscious thought. The stars have reached their fullest brightness, each one a perfect, silent point of silver against the endless black. They seem nearer in this deep quiet, as though the sky has lowered itself gently over the valley, holding the camp in its vast, protective palm. No moon has risen yet. The darkness remains pure, unbroken, except by those steady lights that have guided wanderers for countless generations. Occasionally, a faint meteor traces a brief, silent arc, too soft to startle, too quick to disturb, then vanishes, leaving the sky exactly as it was. Down by the river, the water flows on without pause, its voice reduced to the faintest whisper now. A low, continuous sigh that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The reeds along the bank stand motionless, their tips just brushing the surface, catching the tiniest glimmers of starlight that dance for a moment before fading. No creature moves along the water's edge. All have found their places of rest, curled in hollows, nestled among roots, wrapped in the same deep calm that covers the sleeping band. An elder's hand rests open on the ground beside him, palm upward, fingers loose and still. The cool earth presses gently against the skin, steadying the pulse that beats slow and sure beneath. His eyes remain half open to the stars, not searching, not wondering, simply receiving their quiet light. letting it rest there without question or need for answer. Beside him, a younger figure lies on their side, knees drawn up slightly, one arm tucked beneath the head, the other draped across the ribs where the breathing rises and falls in perfect calm. The night air has grown cooler at the edges, yet the warmth held by the earth and the embers keeps the chill at a gentle distance. It brushes across foreheads and cheeks like the lightest breath, soothing rather than waking, inviting the body to sink deeper into the ground that has cradled it all day and will cradle it all night. Every muscle has released its last trace of holding, shoulders soft, jaw slack, eyelids sealed without tension, the entire form heavy and light at once, sunk yet floating, present yet drifting. Your own breath has become almost imperceptible now. In, so slow. Hold, longer. Out, longest of all. The pause between each breath stretches wider, deeper, carrying you farther from the surface of wakefulness. The ground beneath you feels like an extension of yourself, warm where it touches, cool where it does not, perfectly fitted to every curve, every hollow. The ember's glow brushes your closed eyelids in faint, rhythmic pulses, matching the slow beat within your chest. No thoughts rise to meet it. The mind lies open, empty, quiet as the starlit sky above. The valley breathes with you, slow, deep, safe, unchanging. The fire watches in silence. The stars hold their eternal vigil. The river murmurs its endless lullaby. Nothing stirs, nothing calls. Let the darkness fold around you completely now. Deeper, softer, quieter, into the vast, gentle peace of this ancient, endless night. The embers have sunk even lower now, their glow reduced to the faintest cherry-red pulse beneath the soft gray ash. Only the smallest threads of warmth still rise from them. Gentle, almost invisible, currents that brush across bare arms and faces without ever disturbing the stillness. The circle of light has narrowed to the tiniest halo, barely enough to trace the outline of a cheek or the curve of a shoulder, then yielding completely to the deep, enveloping dark beyond. The night holds everything in perfect quiet. No wind, no distant sound, only the valley breathing its slowest, most measured breath. Bodies lie motionless in their chosen places of rest. One figure rests fully on their back, arms spread loosely at the sides, palms turned upward to the open sky, fingers relaxed and slightly curled as though still holding the memory of a tool or a handful of nuts from earlier in the day. Another lies curled on their side, knees drawn toward the chest in the gentlest possible fold, head pillowed on an outstretched arm, the hide blanket rising and falling with each slow breath. A child remains nestled close to an adult's side, small face turned inward, cheek pressed against warm skin, one tiny hand open against, the steady rhythm of a heartbeat that has become their lullaby. No one shifts, no one sighs. The camp has entered the deepest phase of night where even dreams move slowly, if they move at all. The stars seem to have drawn nearer still, their light so clear and steady that it feels almost tangible. Cool, silver touching the eyelids, the forehead, the open chest, without warmth, without demand, only presence. The patterns overhead remain unchanging, familiar as the paths walked across the valley floor, familiar as the curve of the river, familiar as the shape of the cliffs that guard the camp. No meteor crosses now. The sky holds its breath along with the earth below, vast and calm, offering nothing more than its endless, quiet watch. The river's voice has become the faintest possible whisper, so soft it might be mistaken for the sound of blood moving through veins or air moving through lungs. It flows on without pause, without hurry, carrying the night forward one slow drop at a time, smoothing stones that have lain in its bed since before memory began. Along the banks, the reeds stand frozen in perfect stillness, their tips catching the barest glint of starlight, holding it for a moment before letting it slip away again into shadow. The air has grown perfectly cool, neither cold nor warm, settling over skin, like the lightest veil of silk. It brushes across the face in slow, imperceptible waves, easing the last faint traces of tension from temples, from jaw, from the small muscles around the eyes. Every point of contact with the earth feels deeper now, the small of the back sinking a fraction more, the heels resting heavier, the shoulders melting downward until they seem part of the ground itself. The body has become weightless yet perfectly supported, heavy yet floating, present yet already drifting far beyond the edges of thought. Your own breath has lengthened into something almost still. In, so slow it barely begins. Hold, endless. Out, slower still. The pause between breaths stretches wider with each cycle, carrying you farther from the surface, deeper into the quiet space where even the idea of you begins to soften and blur. The ground cradles every inch of you, warm where the day's heat lingers in the earth, cool where the night air touches, perfect in its balance, perfect in its hold. The faint red pulse of the embers brushes closed, eyelids in the slowest possible rhythm, matching the distant, almost silent beat within your chest. No images rise, no words form, only vast, gentle darkness, only endless peace. The valley lies wrapped in its deepest silence. The fire sleeps beneath its ash. The stars keep their unchanging vigil. The river flows on without end. Nothing moves. Nothing speaks. Let the night take you completely now. Deeper than deep. Softer than soft. Quieter than quiet. Into the boundless, perfect rest of this ancient, starlit dark. The embers have become nothing more than the faintest red memory beneath the ash. Now, small, distant points of warmth that no longer give visible light. Only the softest, deepest heat that seeps upward through the ground in slow, invisible pulses. The camp lies wrapped in total darkness, the kind that feels thick yet gentle, pressing softly against skin without weight, without pressure. The circle of people has dissolved into one quiet, unbroken form, bodies close, overlapping slightly in places where shoulders touch shoulders, where a hand rests lightly against another's arm, where a child's small form nestles, completely within the curve of an adult's side. No separation remains. The warmth shared between them is the same warmth held by the earth, the same warmth that lingers from the long, peaceful day. Breaths have lengthened until they seem to pause forever between each rise and fall. In, so slow the chest barely moves. Hold, vast and empty. Out, slower than thought. The pauses stretch wider with every cycle, carrying each sleeper farther from the edge of awareness, deeper into the still, silent core where even the sense of breathing begins to fade. One figure exhales a single, faint sigh, barely audible, more air than sound, then returns to the same perfect quiet, the rhythm unbroken, the peace undisturbed. The stars above burn on in their unchanging places, their silver light too faint now to reach the ground, too distant to touch anything but the open sky itself. The valley has become a single, vast shadow, cliffs, grassland, river, camp, all merged into one soft, endless dark that holds no edges, no boundaries. The river's whisper has faded to the point. where it might be only the memory of water, or perhaps the slow pulse within every resting body, flowing on without beginning or end. No creature moves anywhere in the valley. The owls remain folded in their high perches, wings tucked, eyes closed. Small night animals stay curled in their warm hollows beneath roots and stones, breaths matching the same slow cadence that carries the sleepers by the hearth. The night air rests completely still. No breeze, no stir, cool against exposed skin yet never chilling, only soothing, only inviting deeper surrender. The ground beneath every form has grown impossibly soft, impossibly warm, as though the earth itself has drawn the last heat of the day upward to cradle each sleeper more perfectly. Shoulders have melted completely into the soil. Hips rest heavy yet weightless. The back of the head sinks until it feels part of the earth. The curve of the spine following without resistance. Every joint has loosened, every muscle released, until the body exists only as quiet presence, held, supported, safe beyond any need for thought. No ripple breaks the stillness along its banks. No leaf stirs, no creature stirs. The entire landscape rests in the same deep surrender. Curled, folded, held, waiting for nothing, needing nothing, simply being. The night air rests cool and motionless against every inch of exposed skin, a gentle pressure that soothes without waking, that cools without chilling. It settles into pores, into hair, into the spaces between fingers, carrying away the last faint warmth of the day until only cool. Quiet equilibrium remains. The ground has become the softest cradle imaginable, warm where the body presses deepest, cool at the edges, molding perfectly to every contour until there is no longer any sense of separation between flesh and earth. Arms lie heavy and open, legs rest without tension. The spine follows the gentle curve of the slope as though it were made for this place alone. Your own breath exists now only as the faintest suggestion of movement, in almost imperceptible, hold, vast emptiness, out, dissolving completely. The long pauses between breaths grow wider still, until the space feels endless, until the next breath arrives so softly it seems accidental, seems unnecessary. The darkness folds inward, layer by layer, around the body, around the mind, around whatever small remnant of thought once lingered, until nothing remains but quiet, boundless space. No border exists between you and the night. No edge separates rest from deeper rest. Only peace, formless, endless, safe. The valley has entered its most profound silence. No ember stirs, no star falls, no river whispers. Everything has become still, deeper still, deepest still. Let the darkness swallow the very last whisper of awareness now. So deep there is no measuring, so soft there is no feeling, so quiet there is only quiet. Into the perfect, eternal rest of this ancient, starless dark. The darkness has reached its fullest depth now, a darkness so complete it feels like the original quiet from which everything once emerged, and to which everything will one day return. No ember remains even faintly red. The hearth has become nothing more than a shallow depression of cool ash, holding only the memory of warmth in the earth beneath it. The camp lies utterly still, every form blended into the single, slow-breathing shape of the valley itself. No outline separates one sleeper from another. Shoulders touch shoulders. Hands rest lightly against arms or backs. Small bodies curl within the protective curves of larger ones, all held together by the same gentle gravity, the same unbroken peace. Breaths have become the faintest possible stirrings. In, so quiet the air scarcely moves. Hold, an eternity of empty space. Out, fading long before the sound of it begins. The intervals between breaths stretch until they feel endless, until the next inhale arrives like the softest afterthought. So faint, so slow, so distant, it seems the body might simply forget to breathe again. Yet it does, softer still, quieter still. A single, tiny shift occurs somewhere in the circle. A finger curling slightly, a head turning the smallest fraction toward the cool night, air. Then stillness returns, deeper than before, more complete. The sky above has become pure black velvet. The stars, now so far they seem only faint impressions left on the inside of closed eyelids. No light reaches the ground. No silver touches skin or stone. The valley has folded itself inward. Cliffs receding into shadow, grassland melting into darkness, river vanishing into the same silent nothing that covers everything. The entire landscape rests in perfect suspension, neither moving forward nor backward, simply existing in the longest, gentlest pause between one moment and the next. No sound exists anywhere. The river has ceased to murmur even to itself. Its flow has become a silent, invisible current beneath the surface of the earth. No leaf rustles. No creature breathes audibly. No night bird calls from the birches. The air itself has grown so still it feels thick with quiet, pressing softly against every surface without ever disturbing it, cooling skin to the exact temperature of rest. The ground has become the softest, most enveloping bed imaginable, neither hard nor yielding, but perfectly matched to every contour of every body that lies upon it. The small of the back sinks until it forgets it was ever raised. The curve of the neck finds its exact hollow in the earth. Arms and legs rest without weight, without boundary, as though they have dissolved into the same warm darkness that holds the mind. Every last trace of tension has long since melted away. Muscles no longer know they exist. Joints no longer remember movement. Skin no longer feels the difference between itself and the night. Your own breath has become little more than a suggestion, a whisper so faint it might already have stopped. In, barely there, hold, vast, empty silence. Out, gone before it arrives. The pauses have grown so wide they feel like the true state. The breaths themselves only brief, unnecessary interruptions in an endless quiet. The darkness has entered everywhere, through skin, through bone, through the last thin veil of thought, until nothing separates you from it. No you remains to be separate. No line divides sleeper from sleep, only quiet, deeper quiet, deepest quiet, without form, without end, without need. The night has become everything. No fire, no stars, no river, only the perfect, measureless stillness that has always been waiting here, patient, unchanging, safe. Let the last faint echo of breath drift away now, deeper than any depth can reach, softer than silence itself, quieter than the absence of sound, into the boundless, eternal rest of this ancient dark. The darkness has become everything. No ember, no breath stirs the air. No river remembers its own name. The valley lies folded into itself. Cliffs gone, grassland gone, camp gone. Only one vast, soft stillness remains. Bodies have long since ceased to be separate. Warmth has long since ceased to be borrowed. The ground no longer holds. It simply is. No sound arrives. No sound departs. The pauses between breaths have stretched so wide they have become the only truth. Endless space where once there was rhythm, endless quiet where once there was motion. The stars have receded into the same darkness they once pierced. The sky has become the same darkness the earth has become. Nothing watches, nothing waits. Skin no longer feels cool or warm. Limbs no longer know they were limbs. The mind has drifted so far it no longer knows it drifted. Only quiet remains, deeper, quieter, softer than the memory of softness. The night has no edges. The rest has no end. Everything has already let go. Everything has already arrived. Stillness, stillness, stillness. The night has passed into that timeless region where hours no longer count. No light has yet touched the eastern horizon. The darkness remains full and soft, a gentle blanket that has wrapped the valley so completely that every shape has melted into one quiet whole. The hearth is cold ash now, long since silent, holding no warmth, asking for none. The sleepers lie exactly as they settled hours ago. Bodies heavy against the earth, limbs loose, faces turned whichever way the last small movement carried them. No one has stirred. No dream has quickened a breath. The air is perfectly still and cool, scented only with the faint mineral breath of stone and the clean, watery trace that rises from the river far below. It rests against skin without moving, cooling everything to the same gentle temperature of rest. The ground beneath each form has become indistinguishable from the body itself, warm where pressure has lingered longest, cool at the open edges, molding so perfectly that the line between flesh and soil has long since vanished. Somewhere deep in the circle, a child exhales once, soft, barely audible, more air than sound. Then the breath sinks back into the same endless quiet. An adult's hand, open on the ground, twitches once with the faintest dream motion, fingers curling inward for a heartbeat, before relaxing again into perfect stillness. These are not awakenings. They are only the deepest layers of sleep shifting, like slow currents far beneath still water. The river continues its silent flow, no longer a sound but a feeling, steady, patient, eternal, carrying the night forward without ever arriving anywhere. The reeds along its banks stand motionless, holding the memory of yesterday's light in their pale tips, waiting without impatience for the first faint gray that will come when it comes. No creature moves, no leaf falls. The grassland stretches dark and endless, every blade bowed slightly under its own quiet weight. The sky has grown so black it feels bottomless. The stars are there, yet so distant they seem only faint echoes of themselves, points of silver pressed into the farthest reaches of memory. No moon has risen, no cloud crosses, only the pure, unchanging dark that has held this valley through countless nights before this one. Your own body has become weight and no weight at once. The chest rises so faintly it might be imagination. The pause after each breath stretches until it feels like the natural state. Long, empty, peaceful, while the next inhale arrives only as the softest afterthought. Every muscle has dissolved into the earth. Every joint has forgotten tension. The mind floats in vast open space. No edges, no center, no need to return. Nothing calls from the darkness. Nothing waits in the silence. The valley breathes as one slow, shared breath. Deeper than deep, quieter than quiet. Let the stillness take the very last whisper now, so soft it cannot be named, so deep it cannot be measured, into the endless, perfect dark that has always been home. Still no light has come. The darkness holds its fullest depth, thick yet tender, pressing gently against every surface without ever pressing too hard. The camp is no longer a place of separate forms. It has become one quiet presence folded into the larger quiet of the valley. Hides, hair, skin, earth, all the same texture now, all the same temperature, all resting in the same slow surrender. Breaths are so faint they seem optional. In, a suggestion. Hold, endless nothing. Out, gone before it was ever here. The long silences between breaths have become the true rhythm. The tiny movements of air are only brief visitors in an ocean of calm. Somewhere in the group, a shoulder settles a fraction deeper into the ground. A small hand opens completely. These are not changes. They are only the final loosening of what was already loose. The river has become less a sound and more a pulse. Slow, invisible, steady, flowing beneath everything, through stone and soil and bone, carrying time itself without hurry. The cliffs stand dark and silent, their pale faces turned inward, holding the memory of every sunrise they have ever seen, yet asking for none now. The grassland lies flat and still, every stem heavy with night dew that has not yet begun to sparkle. The sky is pure absence of light, yet not empty, filled instead with the kind of quiet that needs no stars to prove it is there. The darkness has layers, cool at the surface, warmer deeper down where bodies meet earth, warmest of all in the shared center where breath meets breath. No wind moves, no creature dreams aloud, only the slow, shared stillness that has wrapped this place since before names were given to things. Your eyelids have long since forgotten they could open. The face rests smooth, jaw slack, forehead cool yet calm. The spine follows the gentle curve of the slope as though carved for it. The hands lie open, palms upward, fingers soft and still. Breath has become so slow it feels like the earth itself is breathing through you. Slow, slower, slowest. No thought rises to meet it. No memory asks to be remembered. Only quiet space, vast and gentle, holding you without holding. The night has no beginning here. It has no end. It simply is. Deeper now, softer now, quieter now, inviting. The last faint trace of self to dissolve completely into its perfect embrace. A first, almost imaginary hint of gray appears at the farthest eastern edge. Not light yet, only the memory of light, so faint it could be imagination. The darkness does not retreat. It simply softens at one horizon, allowing the smallest suggestion that change might one day arrive. The valley remains wrapped in night, every sleeper untouched, every form sunk so deeply into rest that the coming dawn will need many slow minutes to reach them. The air has grown imperceptibly cooler, the kind of cool that settles in hollows and under leaves, yet never sharp enough to wake. It brushes across closed eyelids, across parted lips, across open palms, carrying the clean scent of stone and distant pine, the faint green breath of sleeping grass. The river flows on in perfect hush, its surface dark glass under the fading stars. No ripple breaks it, no fish stirs beneath. Bodies lie exactly as they have for hours, some on backs with arms spread, some curled like question marks answered long ago, some pressed close in trusting warmth. A child's small chest rises once, slow, shallow, then falls into longer stillness. An elder's fingers twitch faintly, as though tracing a remembered pattern in the dark, then relax again into open quiet. These movements are not awakenings. They are only the deepest sleep dreaming its own slow dreams. The ground has held every ounce of warmth it gathered yesterday, releasing it now in gentle waves that rise through soil and stone to meet the bodies above. Hips sink deeper, Shoulders melt downward. The small of the back finds its perfect hollow and rests there forever. No muscle remembers tension. No joint remembers motion. Only weight, only support, only peace. Your own breath exists now as the faintest possible rhythm. In, so quiet it might never have happened. Hold, space without limit. Out, fading into nothing. The pauses have become oceans. Wide, calm, endless. While the breaths themselves are only tiny islands, brief and unnecessary. The darkness has entered every part of you. Skin, blood, thought, until there is no you left to separate from it. No border, no edge, only the gentle, unchanging dark that has always known how to hold you. The first gray has not yet become pink. The stars have not yet begun to fade. The valley waits in perfect patience, breathing with you, resting with you, being with you. Deeper now, quieter now, nothing now, only rest. The gray at the eastern edge has deepened by the smallest degree. Not yet dawn, only the promise of dawn, soft and hesitant. It spreads slowly, finger by finger, along the line where earth meets sky, turning the black into the gentlest charcoal. The stars above hold their places a little longer, their silver points still sharp against the softening dark. The valley remains asleep, deeply, completely, safely, every sleeper wrapped in the same slow tide of rest. The air feels thicker now, with the scent of coming morning. Cool stone, damp grass, the faint mineral trace of river water rising on still air. It settles over faces and hands, cooling without chilling, soothing without waking. The river has begun to show the first faint reflection, not of light, but of the absence of complete dark. Its surface a smooth, dark mirror holding the last of the night. No one has moved. No eye has opened. Bodies remain sunk into the earth, limbs heavy, chests slow, faces smooth and untroubled. A hide blanket has slipped slightly from one shoulder during the night. It lies half-folded across an arm, the fur soft against skin, the weight familiar and comforting. A small hand rests open on warm ground, fingers curled just enough to hold nothing at all. The ground continues to give back the day's stored warmth. Gentle, steady, never hot, rising through soil to meet every point of contact. Heels sink deeper, spines follow the curve they have made. Shoulders rest as though they have always belonged exactly here. The body has forgotten it was ever anything but this. Held, quiet, complete. Your breath has become the slowest possible motion. In, almost not at all. Hold, forever. Out, gone. The silence between breaths is now the greater part. The tiny inhales and exhales only faint echoes in an endless calm. The darkness has softened around the edges, yet it still holds you, cool, gentle, safe, allowing the first hint of gray to brush closed eyelids, without ever asking them to open. No thought forms, no need arises, only vast, quiet space where everything is already at rest. The valley breathes in one slow, shared rhythm. The gray creeps forward by the smallest breath. The night lingers, patient, loving, unwilling to leave too quickly. Let it carry you still, deeper, softer, quieter, one endless moment longer. The first true breath of dawn has arrived. Not bright, not sudden, only the gentlest paling of the eastern sky into the softest possible rose. It touches the highest points first. The tops of the limestone cliffs, the distant ridge where the grazing herd once moved, the uppermost branches of the birches. The light is so faint, it seems made of breath rather than fire. Cool, tender, barely there. The valley remains wrapped in sleep. No one wakes to greet it. The camp lies still, bodies sunk deep, faces calm, every sleeper held safely in the long night's final embrace. The air has begun to stir. Just the lightest movement, a whisper across grass blades, carrying the clean scent of dew and stone and waking earth. It brushes across sleeping faces, lifting a single strand of hair here, cooling an open palm there, yet never sharp enough to call anyone back from rest. The river shows the first faint silver thread along its surface, not yet reflection, only the promise of reflection, as the sky slowly lightens above it. Bodies have not moved. Breaths remain slow, shallow, spaced, far apart. A child curls tighter in sleep, small knees drawing closer to chest. An elder's hand lies open, palm upward, catching the first invisible touch of dawn. The shared warmth of the night lingers between forms, shoulder to shoulder, back to side, quiet, trusting, complete. The ground holds its warmth a little longer, releasing it slowly as the air above begins to cool with morning. Every curve fits perfectly. Every weight is supported perfectly. The body rests as though it has never known anything else, neither yesterday's day nor tomorrow's, only this endless, gentle now. Your own breath drifts on without hurry. In, faint, hold, longer, out, longest. The pauses are oceans now, wide and calm. The breaths themselves are only ripples, brief and beautiful. The softening gray brushes your closed eyelids like the lightest feather. It does not ask you to wake. It only reminds you that light exists somewhere, waiting patiently when you are ready. No thought returns. No urgency arrives, only quiet, deeper quiet, softest quiet, holding you still, safely, forever in this perfect, drifting rest. The dawn creeps forward one breath at a time. The valley opens its eyes slowly. But you may stay here, exactly here, as long as the peace allows. The light has truly arrived now, but it is so gentle, so soft that it feels more like a whisper than anything bright or sudden. A thin line of pale rose has appeared along the eastern horizon, spreading slowly across the sky like the quietest breath of morning. This light has not yet reached the lower parts of the valley. It only brushes the highest points of the limestone cliffs, the distant ridges, and the very tops of the birch trees. The camp remains completely asleep. No eyes have opened. No body has moved. Everything is exactly as it was. Through the long night, bodies sunk deep into the earth, breaths so slow they are almost invisible, faces covered in a layer of peace, built from centuries of quiet. The air is moving now, just the lightest touch, a soft current that glides over the grass blades, trembles the dewdrops ever so slightly, and lets them fall before they can catch the first real gleam. This breeze passes over sleeping faces, brushes closed eyelids, cools open palms, yet never sharp enough to pull anyone from rest. It only reminds that the day is beginning, but this day, too, will unfold as slowly and peacefully as the one before. The river is softly finding its voice again. Not loud, not hurried, only a gentle, steady murmur as water slips over smooth stones, like an old lullaby that has never truly stopped. The reeds along the banks sway the tiniest amount now, their tips kissing the water's surface, sending out small, slow circles that spread and disappear without a sound. The bodies are still joined to the earth, shoulders completely released, hands open, palms turned toward the sky, fingers soft and motionless. A child's small chest rises once, slow, shallow, then falls back into longer stillness. An elder's fingers move once, so faintly, as though touching some long-ago memory in the dark, then relax again into open quiet. All of this happens inside sleep. No waking, no rising. The ground is still giving back the last traces of yesterday's warmth, slowly, gently, like a mother holding her child close for one final moment before letting go. Wherever skin meets soil, there is perfect harmony. No hard place, no cold place, everything exactly right, exactly comfortable. Your own breath has become almost nothing. In, so faint it might never have been. Hold, forever. Out, completely gone. The silences between breaths are now longer than the breaths themselves. The stillness is deeper than any breath could ever reach. The soft morning light rests on your closed eyelids like the lightest possible touch. It does not ask you to wake. It only says that the world is still here, waiting patiently whenever you choose. No thought returns. No urgency arrives, only quiet, deeper quiet, softest quiet. The valley breathes in one single, slow breath. With you, with everyone, forever. The day opens itself one gentle breath at a time. But you can stay right here, exactly here, as long as the peace allows. Peace, peace, peace. Now everything is silent. Now everything is complete. Sleep has carried you away. Only peace remains.